Let's face it, life isn't easy. If you're stuck in a bad relationship, betrayed or afraid of tomorrow, financially insecure, or desperate for a breakthrough, you've come to the right place. Dr. Carmen Harra is a renowned psychologist, intuitive, relationship expert, and best-selling author, and she's here to give you the miracle guidance you need. Her new call-in show, Miracle Guidance for Everyday Life, offers profound wisdom, practical advice, daily exercises, and empowering predictions, all for you. Dr. Harra's show aims to eliminate everyday problems, big and small, with topics like healing your relationships, reclaiming your power, achieving better health, dealing with loss, and so much more. Regain the joy, stability, and fulfillment you deserve to feel. Tune in to Miracle Guidance for Everyday Life with host Dr. Carmen Harra, live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, and find the answers you've been looking for.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Miracle Guidance for Everyday Life, the show that gives you the guidance you need to transform your life. My name is Dr. Carmen Harra, and I'm live every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes radio. But tonight, my guest and myself want to help you have an authentic and impassioned relationship. It is your birthright to have a stable relationship with someone who loves you unconditionally. And yet, many of us find relationships so complicated, confusing, or downright stressful. It's not supposed to be that way. Only when we fall for the wrong partners, we actually experience disappointment, anxiety, and pain, a lot of pain in relationship. And I think nothing hurts more than love. So to detach from toxic people and transform our love life, we must first revisit the beliefs we hold and the types of partners we attract. So this is why I've invited a very dear friend of mine, Iris Benrubi, to the show this evening. She can evaluate your relationship blueprint and explain how you can have the love you deserve. And Iris is a dating and relationship expert, a registered psychotherapist, a marriage counselor. She spent over 20 years professionally coaching and counseling men, women, couples in over 16 countries to find the true love. I remember Iris has interviewed Dr. Phil on how to attract a man, and she also is the one who asked Mel Gibson about his love life. What women really want. This is actually her #1 best-selling book. Actually, the book, the complete title is Lonely and Single, to Love and Adore. I love this title. She is so charismatic. I love Iris. She's an international keynote speaker. She has humor, energy. She shares her life with the man of her dream that she attracted using this 3-step process that she teaches other women to use. Well, when she's not coaching, I tell you that Iris has a wonderful life. She rides a motorcycle, and she's always, spending time with her significant other in their pink convertible, beautiful cars. So, Iris, I'm so thrilled and excited to have you. And please welcome to my show my beautiful friend Iris Benrubi, and thank you so much for doing this with me tonight.
Oh, well, thank you for having me on, Carmen. I'm really excited about doing this with you.
My God, I am super excited to be with you. And I want to tell your audience how much I care about you and your work that you do. And in order to kind of introduce you more to everybody listening, we have a large audience and a lot of ladies interested to find out much more about their love life. I'm going to have to ask you some questions so that I can make the audience more familiar with what you personally call a relationship blueprint. And I'm going to ask you, do you think we all have that kind of a relationship blueprint?
Oh, absolutely. It's what we learned from childhood that tells us who it is that we can depend on or how much we can depend on people.
So you consider the relationship blueprint has a lot to do with going back, like Freud used to say, to your youth, And then you establish relationship with all the people in your life, your mother, your father, your sibling, the other kids. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, so it's actually the other way around. It's because of the relationship we had with our mother, our father, or if you were brought up with an adoptive parent or a grandparent, that informs you as to what you can depend on people, and that creates your relationship blueprint going forward. So what you've learned as a child becomes your reality because it's the truth when you're 3 years old, 6 years old, 9 years old. You know, do you ask mom for something and do you get a slap? Or you ask dad for something and he says, you know, oh, come here, let me give you a hug. Did you hurt your boo-boo? Or do they say, you know, stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about? It teaches you in that moment, can I depend on people around me to meet my needs? And until we do some work as we become adults, we carry that as the truth into our adult relationships. So if you had a childhood where your parents weren't emotionally available, you'll have a lot of tolerance to be with a partner who's not emotionally available. But that's the bad news. The good news is that you can change that.
So in other words, what you're trying to say is that, okay, if my relationship failed, you know, as an adult, I have to go back and look, go back to my youth and look whatever happened to me then, you know, in terms of the blueprint that has been created, the imprint that exists in my brain, in terms of the people I wanted to depend on and my relationship with them. And that was actually reflected in the relationship with the people I brought into my life as a life partner. Am I right?
Yeah, so when I look at relationships, I don't like to see them as failures, but more if this relationship ended, what was my part in this? Because if I'm at the mercy of everyone else that shows up in my life, I have no power. But if I start to look at myself, what was my part in the relationship and how I showed up, and also the kind of partner that I chose for myself, you have a lot of power to make sure you don't repeat it. And so part of growing wise, whether male or female, is really learning from the lessons as you grow older. And in part, it's understanding the different types of blueprints where you naturally fall in because of your childhood, which gives you the capacity for what you've had in your past relationships. And how do you get to a place that's more balanced, that has a lower tolerance for bad behavior, that's willing to speak up? And I can go into the 4 styles if you want.
Absolutely. So you're saying that women have a certain type or a certain archetype of individual that they pick, you know, as a man in their life. Am I right? So, and I'm going to ask you why women do that. Why do they have a specific type that they attract?
That's brilliant. It's an archetype. It's what you've learned is the truth for relationships. So we tend to pick the partner that replicates the relationship we had with our parent. That's the most wounded part. Now, good question. Why do we do that? You know, we're not masochists. Why would we even do that? It's because it's an attempt to heal our wounds from childhood. Now, if you pick a partner who's emotionally unavailable, what happens is that scar actually never closes. It just keeps getting picked at and picked at with every fight. When you pick a partner who's emotionally healthy, the two of you can create healing in each other and move to what's called secure relationship blueprint or secure attachment.
So you are saying that somebody coming in our life, whatever type of individual that is, it just happens to be a reflection of the wounds that exist within ourselves. Because as you know very well, we are born so pure, so unhurt, so complete in a way. And then, you know, as we growing, you know, and we becoming adults, you know, we know more so pure. So all those events, experiences, all the pain, the suffering, all those experiences that we have create an imprint, and that imprint will manifest in the type of individual that we bring in our life. Am I right?
Absolutely. So what happens is that when you meet someone who's not a reflection of the parent you had the most issues with, there's no attraction. That's why there's no chemistry. They're not recreating something from your childhood. Like you said it brilliantly. A child is born into this world a blank canvas and innocent. And
innocence, yeah, and purity.
Yeah. And it's through their experiences that they get to say, this is the truth about the world, about men, about women, about relationships, about who I can trust or not trust. And it's totally dependent on the kind of family you grew up in.
Right.
And so that informs your reality, but it's a very young reality where you had no say that if daddy got angry at you and didn't speak to you for a week, you didn't have the capacity to get in the car when you were 6 and go down to your friend and get the support that you needed. You were totally dependent on dad or mom who were emotionally unavailable, and what that told you is that you can't depend on people to be there for you.
And you and I have seen a lot of young people coming from dysfunctional families. And we've seen how much those people struggle, to find their own identity and to find their ways through life, and build that desperate need for security and finding themselves and finding who they are. And it is really remarkable to see somebody transforming through life in a positive way.
Yeah, the research says that 50% of the world have secure parents. My experience, and I've talked to other therapists, we really believe that the numbers are a lot lower. But the kind of parenting will really tell you the kind of partner you're going to choose and the kind of things that you put up with. So would it be easier right now if I explain the different types?
Please, yeah, let's go into explaining the types. So that's so significant.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about the three main types, and the fourth is kind of a combination. So if we think of a line, and there's two dots on either side, but there's also a dot in the middle. So we're going to call that dot in the middle the secure functioning. So what that means is that you grew up with parents that were dependable, they were reliable, you could turn to them. So that means as an adult, you're actually really comfortable getting close to others. You're comfortable depending on them and having them depend on you. And you don't often worry about being abandoned or somebody getting too close. And if you have a fight with a partner, you know things are going to work out. You don't have any doubts. So that is going to call the secure relationship blueprint. On one side, and it doesn't matter, we'll pick the left side, is what's called the more avoidant attachment style or relationship blueprint. And that means you grew up with parents who are emotionally unavailable. It could be that they were busy going to work and putting food on the table. It could be they come from their own history of parents who weren't emotionally available for them, and they couldn't give you what you needed to take care of your emotions. So what you learned is you're on your own. I can't depend on anyone. And the way you recognize that you're in this archetype is that you are really proud of being highly independent. And what often happens in romantic relationship is that you find it really uncomfortable being close to others. You find it difficult to trust them. You even find it difficult to allow yourself to depend on anyone. And you get nervous when anyone gets too close, and you often create some kind of drama or upset that pushes the other person away because it feels like the other person wants to be more intimate than you feel comfortable being. So that's the avoidant. At the other end, the other dot, let's say on the right, is what's called the anxious relationship blueprint. And so you had parents that were less consistent than 40%. To have the secure, the dot in the middle, so you're comfortable with relationship and closeness, your parents had to be just 40% consistent with being able to turn to you when you needed them. If you had parents who were less than 40% but more than 0, then what happened is a child, you were always gauging, can I turn to them? Are they going to be mad this time? Oh no, this time they picked me up and hugged me. Then the next time you turn to them and they get angry at you, And so you never know if you can go towards them or not. So you're always gauging. And as an adult, you end up being in relationships where you're always gauging the other partner. Am I good enough? Are they going to love me? Are they going to leave me for someone else? And you often find that other people, your romantic especially, but sometimes even girlfriends, aren't interested to be as close as you would like it. And you often worry about whether your partner is going to leave you. And you also want to merge with the other person. And that desire sometimes really scares partners away. Like, I mean, I'm more of this anxious attachment style. I've done a lot of work, so I'm closer to secure now. But I remember when I was first dating out there after my divorce, I had a boyfriend that used to say to me, "Would you like me to unzip my skin so you could get in?" And I was thinking, like, yeah, pretty much. It's funny, but it's true. I had this need to merge with him, and he was like, "Oh my God, this is too much." So he was at the other end. He was avoidant, and I was anxious. And so I always say this is God's joke on us that, we often pick our opposite, which creates a lot of turmoil and drama in relationships.
So is this in your book? Because I found it so fascinating, I mean, it is?
No, this isn't in my book. I'm actually writing a new book.
You should put this in a book. I mean, me as I think your friend, suggest this because this is so brilliantly said. And I think you can help a lot of people to identify this and acknowledge where are they the avoidant? So which are the three on? Let's summarize them. Just give the people the three blueprint.
So secure, you're really comfortable with being close to people, and you never question whether you're lovable. The avoidant, you're really uncomfortable with closeness, and you often want to push people away because you have a high need for independence. The anxious is you're never sure whether you're good enough or somebody's going to leave you, and so you're always trying to get information to see, is the person close enough to me, and what can I do to get closer to them? And the fourth category comes from a life of trauma. And so you have what's called a disorganized. So the parent that you really want to be close to is really dangerous and abusive. So they're a dangerous place, but they're the place that you want to be close to. But they're dangerous, so you pull back, but you move forward because you want to be close to them. And so if you've had partners that have called you emotionally chaotic, then you probably fall into this category.
Wow, and these are so extreme. If you think of the disorganized one versus the secure one, how extreme is that? Don't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why if you don't do the work from your childhood, you're just going to recreate the chaos, the drama, the neglect, the abuse, the abandonment you had in childhood. And I can tell you that while I was dating, I picked every man that was avoidantly attached, which meant he had a high need for space, and I had a high need for closeness, until I did my work to pick a secure man.
Yeah. But I think that this happened to you. I'm just, I take my right to analyze this a little bit. I think that after you did your own, you did your own research, you did your own introspective, you did your own healing, you analyze, super analyze, and dig as deep as possible into your own situation, then you are able to bring in the right person for yourself. But only after you did your work, your inner work.
Absolutely. I needed to understand. For me personally, my mother had a child that died before me. So she was very involved in my life, right? And had a lot of fear about losing me. And yet we moved to Canada, and she lost all of her family, all of her language. And so she was both back and forth, right? And so I was anxious. Once I really got how to soothe myself, understand where this comes from, and really almost rewrite my history to a place where I get my value. Once I truly got my value and why I would be a prize for anyone, that's when I could start to relax.
Wonderful. So this is so amazing. So everybody listening, we're going to take some calls in a little bit, but I still think I have a lot of questions for you because this topic fascinates me. And it's just something that I think people are so drawn. They want to listen. They want to learn. At any age, you find people who still need to do their own homework, especially after they go after a number of relationships in which they fail. And then they question why, and then they start introspecting, doing the whole, and then finally, they getting it. So it's never too late. If you are not happy in your own life, to look deep within yourself and apply all of this, and reflect upon everything that Iris is telling you guys. So let's dig deeper. But I'm going to take a break, Iris, just for a little bit. For 2 seconds, then we'll be back in a minute. So, guys, hold on the line. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with Iris Benrubi in a second.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organisation, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Connect at omtimes.com. OMTimes, creating a more conscious lifestyle.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
These are the sounds of a dinner that almost didn't happen. A dinner now served, thanks to people like you. Due to COVID-19, 17 million more Americans may face hunger. Feeding America is helping our neighbors in need. And if you're able, you can too. Donations are being accepted at feedingamerica.org/coronavirus. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
And I'm back with my wonderful guest tonight, Iris Benrubi, and she is the author of a wonderful book that I highly recommend, an number one Amazon best-selling book called Lonely and Single to Loved and Adored. I so love this title. And she is writing a new book right now, and we are talking about this archetype. And I'm going to ask you, Iris, is it possible to change your type, your archetype, and by changing that, actually change what you bring into your life, like pick up a different person, like finally bringing a good person into your life?
Absolutely. I've done it with hundreds, if not thousands of men and women. I've done it on myself. And when you talk about never give up, my oldest client was 83 looking for love.
Oh, wow. So it's so beautiful.
It doesn't matter how many broken relationships you've had, how many, what your history is. When you do the work, you can transform this, and that changes the kind of chemistry you have with the type of man you'll pick.
Right. And talking about the men you pick, you know very well, and I do in my career working with so many people, and I did marriage counseling myself, I've seen women, attracted men that are emotionally unavailable. Now, my question to you, working as a therapist or a counselor for so many years, how can a woman, tell if a man is emotionally available or unavailable? And how can she work on getting into a committed relationship with somebody who she is trying to figure it out what type of a individual he is? Or in other words, to make it easier as a question, how can a woman, attract the man who's capable of commitment, a man who's emotionally available?
So that's a great question. The first thing you want to start to look at, what does emotional unavailability, what did that look like when you were growing up? How did your mother, your father, your main caregiver not respond to your needs? So means, what is your tolerance level for someone not being there for you? Does that mean somebody made fun of you, dismissed you, told you you were too sensitive? Why are you making a big deal of things? Can't you just move on? People who dismiss your emotions and invalidate what you're feeling is somebody who's emotionally unavailable. Like, one of the telltale signs that I tell women that I'm working with, if you're going on a date and the guy is really mean to the waitress or the waiter, run the other way, because it means that they're judgmental and they're harsh. They're in their, I'm going to call it, not as a personality disorder, but more narcissistic qualities, that it's all about them. Especially on the first date when everyone's on good behavior. If you have someone who's dismissive or creates drama or chaos in a situation that could have been handled quietly, you know you have someone who doesn't have the capacity to understand another. And what does that mean? It means not to have the ability to be with emotions. Right. So when you're feeling something, he doesn't have to agree with you, but can he be with you while you feel what you feel, hold the space for you to go through whatever you need to, and then be there by your side as your support, even though he may not agree with you. He may later talk to you about, have you considered something else? Like, one of the things that I've taught my partner, that what I need when I'm upset, I don't want you to problem solve. I just need you to open up your arms and hold me, and then within 5 seconds, I'm done. And so,
is there a way?
Is
there a way to make somebody from emotional unavailable available if you do a lot of work? Is that possible? Right.
You can't make anybody else anything.
That's true. So, I agree. But if somebody's willing to change, is it possible to help that person? Yeah.
Absolutely. And what that means is that there needs to be a slowing down, a learning to be with emotions, learning to have self-compassion for themselves. There's a whole process that we're not going to get into this so much. But you need to have a willing partner that wants to co-create something with you. And I always tell women, don't fall in love with a man's potential. He may never step into it.
That's so true.
With the man that's in front of you.
That's incredible. You just have to create. I always believe that in a relationship, when everything at the beginning seems so wonderful, what we need to build and create is that emotional intimacy, which will allow, two people to come together and allow somebody to adjust to each other and sort of, come to that level of openness when you become available, even if originally you're not 100% there. So I think that with hard work and the willingness to change and building on emotional intimacy, people can create a relationship that would last the test of time. Because the problem with women is that they see after 5 years, 10 years, the divorce is knocking at your door, and they question, why is this happening to me? So I feel like emotional intimacy is the glue to a committed relationship and to the survival of a relationship.
Totally, and I'm going to invite our listeners to actually go back to some of their old relationships and ask themselves, what are the red flags that were there that I didn't acknowledge?
Right.
And what that means is you have a capacity to put up with it, and that needs to change.
Right, I totally agree. I'm going to have one more question. I'm going to go and take a call. I want to ask you, how can a woman attract a man who will treat her with all the respect and the love that she deserves? Because women sometimes, as you know, because of all the wounds and everything you've been going through, we tend sometimes to attract the wrong partner, the partner that doesn't resonate, that doesn't treat us well. So what is if there is a recipe, is there a recipe that a woman can actually attract a man to treat her with all the love and respect and gratitude, that a woman will make her feel fulfilled and entire and complete and successful and adored. Like you said, you use the word adored in your book. And I love this word. It just resonates. It's just such a beautiful word, But can we actually translate it into reality in a relationship?
So I'm going to say there's two pieces to this answer. The first piece is to truly get on a heart level, not in your head, because most of us know that we deserve great love.
Right.
The way we behave is that we put up with behavior or we don't address things because we're not always sure that we deserve love or that we're flawed or nobody would really want me with fill in the blank. My chin hairs, my butt, my bust, my gray hair, my height, there's so many things that women look at themselves and put themselves down for.
Right.
A good man will want you the way you are, and once you get to that place where you respect yourself, you will never allow yourself to be in a relationship where a man isn't respectful or reciprocates your love. The second piece to that is the willingness to address things respectfully when they're not working. Most of us didn't grow up with a good role model in our families that teach us how to deal with conflict. Most of us feel that, conflict creates a wedge in relationship. And I'll tell my couples, at some level, you're right. If you don't have the skills to deal with conflict, it creates a wedge. But when you have the skills, that's what creates emotional intimacy and deep connection.
Absolutely. You are so right. I'm just, I would love to invite you one day whenever you're free to do a live on Facebook with me or on Instagram. I have a lot of followers and I think your wisdom needs to be heard even more than just on the radio. So let me know whenever you can do that, because that would be so amazing. I feel like the audience is like getting so much profound wisdom and extraordinary tips, that everybody needs. We all need that in relationship. So if people want to get a hold of you, how can they find you, Iris? If a couple wants to do therapy, or if somebody is just in need for counseling, is there a website that you can give us all the details?
Yeah, so there's a couple ways. I'll make it really easy. I'll just say go to foreverlovecoaching.com.
Forever Love Coaching, okay.
Foreverlovecoaching.com, and just go to the contact tab or /contact, and there's a place where you can put your name, your email, and send me a message, and I'll get back to you right away.
That's amazing, because people need you, Iris. This is you spend a lifetime, putting these things together, all these essential tools that are so necessary for feeling loved and free and excited and keeping excitement in a relationship and feeling joyful. If your relationship is not working, we are all tense, we're unhappy, we're miserable. We even can get sick. I've seen a lot of women going through divorce. They actually end up by being sick sooner or later because they can't control those energies, So how significant it is to understand what's happening to you and your partner and to build on that relationship, to make it better, to make it grow, to make it more fulfilling. And I've seen relationships that 40, 50 years later, believe it or not, they're actually better than ever, which a lot of people cannot believe that actually a relationship will get better. But it is possible. Do you have any tips to make a relationship grow better in time?
Yeah, and I'm going to come back to something that you said, which is about growing the emotional intimacy. And what does that mean? It's being willing to step out of your comfort zone to create something that's even more vulnerable, more close. It's about learning to grow your capacity to trust someone with the right person.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And that comes in time. So it takes a while. You need to have the wisdom, the patience, and the hard work on a daily basis. Put work into this,
Yeah, and I'm going to invite people to have play instead of hard work. Enjoy it. Go
Yeah,
out
you're
there.
right.
There's a concept by John and Julie Gottman called Feathers and Bricks, and what they teach marriage counselors is that in every relationship, when there is a fight, it's a brick. When there is disagreement, it's a brick. And on the flip side, when there's good times, there's cute flirting or smiles or eye contact, it's a feather. So you need to have so many more feathers in that bank account to counter the weight of that brick. And that, if you just use that as your model for how to replenish and recharge your relationship, you have a model for success.
That is so beautifully said. And I would love to take our first caller, but let's take a short break, and then Leilani is our first caller. Leilani, don't go anywhere. We'll be with you in a minute. And have your question for my wonderful guest, Iris, tonight. So let's take the break first.
The best of holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
I'm Fidel Nshombo. I was born in a city called the Bukavu in the Congo. We were a loving family, and then, boom, everything that I had disappeared in a single day. People think that when you are a refugee and they resettle you to America and all your problems are done, they don't understand that that's the beginning of everything. I was not born a refugee. I was made one.
It's time we welcome refugee families with open arms. Learn more at embracerefugees.org, brought to you by the Ad Council.
And I'm back on OMTime Radio with my wonderful guest, Iris Benrubi, who I'm very grateful that she's with me tonight. And she's the author of a book called Lonely and Single, to Love and Adore. I so like this title, Iris, because I think it's so inspirational. And the tips that you're giving to people is exactly what people need to listen right now. And you inspiring people. And again, for everybody who wants to get a hold of you, they go to your is that your website that you gave to us before?
It is.
Okay. So
foreverlifecoaching.com.
Yeah. So for everybody who wants a session with Iris, or you said that you counsel people all over the globe, is that true?
Yes, I think 16 countries to date that I've worked with.
Oh, wow.
People.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I'm going to go to a friend of a show. She's called Leilani. Hi, Leilani.
Hi, Carmen. Hi, Iris.
Leilani, we have such a pleasure tonight to have Iris with us. And I kind of know you and know a lot about your love life. So if you have any question to Iris, feel free to ask her.
Great. I love this topic. Thank you, Iris. I grew up in a very dysfunctional, emotionally unavailable mother. My dad died when I was 2. I am dating a man that I love to the moon. He is Muslim and 16 years younger, so we agreed in the beginning that it would be temporary. And I noticed in the relationship that I want to freak out, and I just don't say anything. I just want to clarify, it's the healthiest relationship I've ever had. But I noticed, too, I long for a long-term committed relationship, but I'm terrified of being hurt because I've had my heart broken several times by men. And I think I'm category avoidance relationship. I think that might be what I am. I've been called too independent by men often. So thank you.
That's definitely the sign. Can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
Is being in this temporary relationship keeping you safe from ever having your heart broken again?
No, because I know it'll break when he leaves.
You've picked a man who can't possibly turn into long-term.
Correct.
Or at least that's what you've decided between the two of you. So what's your question?
My question is, I've done a lot of work on myself. I'm terrified to call in the man that I feel will be the long-term committed. I'm just terrified. And I don't understand why.
Well, let's play with that for a moment. If you did call him in, what would be the risk?
That we would fall in love, we would move in together, we would commit, and then one day he would leave.
Yeah. And so where does that come from? Probably from your 2-year-old self that lost your dad and in the process lost your mom as well. Mm-hmm. And so you were on your own from the age of 2.
Yeah.
And your world right now is organized of I'm on my own. So I might as well be independent. And I'm going to invite you to consider that maybe you chose this man because there is no future with him. As much as your heart will break, you're prepared for this one. He can't walk away from you because you've planned it.
Mm. Yeah, for the last 16 years, I've dated unavailable men. I tend to date men from other countries who leave.
It's safe.
It's like she's programmed. You program Leilani in a way, for this. Iris is so right. That's exactly it. You lost your dad, but you lost your mom. So you're on your own all your life. So you will bring somebody in who you indirectly, subconsciously know he has to be unavailable.
Mm.
And I'm going to invite you to do some homework. I want you to start to make a list of all the ways in which you could depend on someone in the last X amount of years of your life. So what I'm
the
getting
way
you
I
to
did?
do,
okay.
The way you have, how people have shown up and they've been dependable, even though you never set out to depend on them. Because what we're doing is we're reprogramming your brain to not just add all the evidence of the people who have failed you, who've abandoned you, who've rejected you, who haven't shown up. I want you to now start to focus on the way people have shown up in your life. Because right now, you have a whole body of evidence that tells you how you can't depend on anyone, so you might as well stay safe and pick men who are emotionally unavailable. Because the brain is programmed that there's a saying in the science of neuroplasticity that the brain is Teflon for good and Velcro for bad. So if I ask you right now to list all the ways in which men and people have disappointed you, you can probably give me a list of 20 things right off the bat. But if I asked you for 20 ways in which people have been there for you, if you're like everyone else, it usually takes a lot longer to find, and I want you to make this a conscious process for you. Start to find the ways in which people show up for you. And you can even start about calling into the show and getting some homework. to start to shift your beliefs.
Okay.
Isn't this great?
It's wonderful. I learned so much already, and I didn't know, as if a parent's emotionally unavailable, I didn't know we would call in unavailable emotionally partners.
Because it's your reality. What happens, if I can just tell you quickly, when a man is emotionally available for you, you just want to peel him off your body. What's wrong with him? He doesn't have a life. Can't he get his own life? Why does he need to be with me so much?
Or I feel unsafe because I feel like he's prying too much into my life. He wants to know too much.
Yeah. I'm going to lose myself because you're so proud of being independent. And then you start to push him away, and then he loses interest, even though he's a good man.
This man actually asked me to see childhood photos, and it's the first time I've ever shared childhood photos.
Great. So there's a part of you that's starting, like the bud in the rose, that's starting to unfurl and open up and blossom to be the full you. Good for you. It takes something. It takes courage. I want to acknowledge you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Oh, my
Thanks,
beautiful
Carmen.
Melanie. I hope this gives you, a plan. It gives you a structure. It gives you an idea what to work on, because I think you can work on yourself. And following Ruby's advice, I think you will be able to know what to do with this man. And how can you take this relate to another level of power? I think you can do it. Yeah. Don't you think so, Iris? She can do it.
You can do whatever you set your mind to. You just need to be committed to you and really get that you deserve this.
Can I ask you one more quick question?
Sure.
As long as Carmen's okay with it, I'm good.
Okay. I was always taught as a child from age 3, I remember, that I wasn't lovable.
So you weren't
That's
taught?
Really hard. Because my mom used to spank me and say, "You're not lovable, you're not lovable, you're evil."
Yeah, and so what I want you to see in that is your mom. First of all, I'm so sorry you went through that. No child ever deserves that experience. But what I want you to see is your mom simply had an opinion. She was working out her own issues from her parents onto an innocent little 3-year-old child. And she didn't have the truth. All she had was an opinion.
I think she was taught that she wasn't lovable.
It's exactly what we said, Iris, that a child is born pure, and that an experience like this happens at 2 years old, at 4 years old, and that the purity is gone, the hurt, the pain kicks in, and that it takes a lifetime to heal that pain.
Yeah, and what it requires for you is to start to ask yourself, in what ways am I lovable? You want to counter this belief that your mother implanted in you. That's not the truth. It was only her own projection of her own childhood. Probably
animals love me. Animals love me.
They're really perceptive energetically as to whether someone can be trusted or not. And so we don't have to do this live on the radio, but this is work for you to start to get, in what ways am I lovable? Even if I haven't been able to accept it, in what ways have people shown me or told me that I'm lovable? You need to start to rewrite your history. Your mom skewed your history by, I'm going to use this word, vomiting her own stuff on you. That's the truth. It's time that we peel that away and for you to get to know the real Leilani under all of this. The Leilani that your guy has picked right now that wants to see your childhood pictures.
Yeah.
This is so beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
And I really feel, Leilani, that you will be healed. This is going to heal you. You know, these words will stay with you and will shift something in you, in your perception about yourself and your perception of your whole life, the way you look at your life. From now on, is going to be different, and it's going to allow you to finally break through something that you couldn't break through for such a long time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful.
Oh,
Melanie, I have no doubt that you can totally shift this for yourself. It just requires effort.
Okay, I can do it.
You can do it.
Yes, you can. We're both in your corner.
I love you,
Maybe
Leilani.
you can come to my wedding.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Blessings.
We love you, Leilani. Thank you so much for calling the show. Oh my God, Iris, this is so beautiful. I'm so grateful to you. It's just
thank you. This has been a blessing.
Powerful sometimes to be able, you know what I mean, to tap deep into the wounds, you know what I mean, and try to show them so that you know, when you become, it's everything awareness, it's a law of the universe, to become aware of the problem. And it happens in life that we're not aware for a very long time. And lack of awareness doesn't allow us to heal. As a word of wisdom at the end of the show, do you have a definition of the golden relationship rules? Do you have some rules that everybody can follow when it comes to reaching the golden relationship type?
I would say the first golden rule is to respect yourself, to really get to know who you are in your value, so that when something crosses a boundary, chances are you didn't have a lot of experience setting up healthy boundaries. But when you honor and love who you are at the core, this isn't about you being better than anyone else. This is just about you loving who you are, that when something happens, whether it's a cashier, whether it's a date, or whether it's a husband, that you have the words to say, hey, sweetie, that didn't work for me. Can we talk about this? And in that formula, with respect, you get to work things out. And with knowing who you are and the stuff that you've gone through with childhood, if you can share that with a partner who's aware and conscious, the two of you get to heal each other on this journey. It's a beautiful journey when you can do that.
Oh my God, this is amazing. Is there another rule that you can tell us? I want all your secrets, Iris.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You know, I feel like your beautiful book is like coming, you know, it's coming to us. You know, all your magic ideas, all these many years of expertise and working with people that made you an authority in the field, the big authority that you are. You know, that we love, adore, we respect, we honor you, we are grateful. But anything else you can share, because it's so important. People don't think of the golden rules, but they are there, you know, and in life there are golden rules.
So I'm going to say that when you pick a healthy partner, and so that means you're not picking a man who's abusive or narcissistic, right. That we all have our wounds. And then when he gets upset, he's getting upset from his own wounds from his childhood. And when you can be calm enough to explore what's going on with him, you get to help him heal. He gets to see your wounds from childhood, and that's how you develop that emotional intimacy, that vulnerability to have this one person in the world that you can turn to no matter what, who will be there for you and support you.
That's perfect. That's so beautifully said. So I will add a little bit of my golden rules, which are to simplify things, because people complicate, you know, so we forget that in love, I think simplicity is key. You know, we can build an empire with your partner, but we have to look at simple values. And, you know, the first value that foster love and return to the simplicity of a relationship together. So then things are not getting too complicated, too convoluted, too confusing. And sometimes, you know, this can be done in silence. And I think another rule is we and not me. You know, the most destructive force in a relationship is the ego. that tears down the human bond because it favors me and then neglects the we. So I also think another rule is that being strong, and not weak in a relationship. A person's weakness is generally more noticeable than his strength. So I feel there are gentle ways to get your partner to admit, for instance, that he did something wrong or that he has a different vision of things. So refrain from being negative in a relationship, which a lot of people do that. They become negative when they feel like their emotions are, out of control. I don't know if you agree with me, but these are some of my golden rules, like looking at the future and not at the past, like planning a future with your partner will motivate you, to take the right steps towards manifesting your goals. And we can talk on and on and on about the things that are significant to build some. But I want to thank you, my beautiful friend, an amazing therapist, an amazing author, and a fabulous counselor, Iris Benrubi. It was such a delight, such an honor, such a pleasure to have you. For everybody, you can reach Iris and go and counsel her, and you will be amazed and your life will be transformed. And Iris, my guest tonight, thank you again. And for everyone listening, I'll be back with you next week, same place, same time, OMTimes Radio.